welcome to the 9642 podcast. This is your host, Mr. Number 9.
And this is The Fool.
This is where me and the Fool give our
Unqualified and unrequested.
ramblings on the various issues in the world of sport.
Or something like that.
Hello everyone, welcome back to a new season of 9642. We are in our 11th season.
Yeah. Crazy.
More than a decade when we started. It's been more than a decade since Sir Alex Ferguson has been the manager of Manchester United. And in that time, Manchester United has not won a single premiership, to nobody's surprise. Fortunately, apologies in advance, we couldn't record an end-of-season review in the for the football and all the international tournaments that were going on. We were trying to cover as I got bronchitis and basically was bedridden for 2 weeks and couldn't really talk without coughing every other minute for the third week. So we did you a favor.
Yeah, exactly. Wasn't going to be an easy thing.
Yeah, but it was an incredible tournament in the Euros. I think we all feel like the best team won. The team that deserved it, just like we thought they deserved to win in 2008 and 2012. Spain, how fun were they to watch?
Oh, so fun. They were the best. I'm going to admit, it has been a whole month, so my brain's sort of half forgotten. But Spain, I should say, was lots of fun. They played really well. I mean, they knocked out Germany, France, and England in the knockout rounds, all with the same score, 2-1. Always fun.
Yeah, and I think they played with the right philosophy. They stuck to their principles. Obviously, it's international football. You've got to have some materialism and realism in your approach. But even with that, all of that was based on their philosophy. This is not a tiki-taka 2008, 2012 perfect football, pass the opponents to death sort of team.
No.
This team has wingers. And let me tell you what, it's Lamine Yamal's world, and we're just living in it. Is it not?
Yeah, 100%, you're right.
Just knowing who the next superstar, assuming Barcelona don't ruin him, as they have for a lot of young players by overplaying them and burning them early in their career. Barcelona ruined El Fenomeno Ronaldo back in 1994 by telling him to put on weight, and that's when he got his first knee injury, which kind of he just does it the same again after that.
Yeah.
Tell the perfect guy to be not perfect. That's the Barca way. So hopefully that doesn't happen to him. He's incredible. And then, this is the weird thing. If he didn't exist, we'd all be saying, it's Nico Williams' world and we're just living in it now.
Yeah, no, that's
he's
crazy.
So good as well.
Yeah.
He's 19. He's the older guy. He's not the wonder kid, because there's a 17-year-old
it's crazy.
who turned 17 during the finals.
The day before the final? Yes.
The day before or day after, but it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. Thinking about it's crazy.
And it's pretty much this team has a few veterans, but everybody's young. Spain are incredible to watch, and we definitely, they definitely won our hearts. While at the same time we had the Copa America, and one thing's for certain: when James Rodriguez puts on the Colombia jersey, he becomes Superman.
That might actually be true. 100%.
Yeah. He's just so good when he's playing for Colombia. It's a new level. The games, this tournament, which took place in America, it started off slow. It was extremely hot this summer. and the teams initially looked a bit tired, but largely all the teams we expected to make the knockouts did, and in our prediction rounds. And then this Colombian team went on a magic run, beating Panama 5-0 in the quarterfinals, and then beating Uruguay 1-0 in the semifinals. Uruguay, basically the team that almost by default tends to win Copa Americas, and then losing to Argentina in the final. They almost did the magic run that Spain did. Argentina got the draw with Ecuador, a team I think we were expecting to do pretty well this tournament because they were kind of dark horses, but comfortably beating Canada and the extra time winner against by Martinez to get them through to the finals. So Messi now has 2 Copas to go along with his World Cup.
Yeah.
And of course his Olympic gold medal from 2004. So, if you didn't think Messi had clocked the sport of football, he definitely has clocked the sport of football.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I'd say Argentina doing, we're talking about 2008 to 2012 Spain. Argentina just, same thing, Copa America, World Cup, Copa America. So.
Yes, exactly. But I think, for some reason, like this Argentina team, we know that once Messi retires, it's going to be very, very different. I don't know if he's going to play in the he's going to play in the next World Cup.
Yeah,
but if this was his final tournament, like what a way to go! Yeah. What a career!
I guess because I think he got injured in this one, didn't he? He got subbed out in like the 66th minute. Pretty sure he was injured. That's why he was subbed. So could be a little sad if that's the injuries are starting to hold up. Yeah, but as you say, can't really complain about. This is the retirement, They back-to-back Copa Americas with the World Cup in the middle. Like they talk about clocking the game. That's the way to end it all.
Absolutely, and also the. Can you remember there was a time when Argentinians would complain that Messi never plays well for them, even though everybody else is like, this guy's carrying your team. What are you talking about?
Yes, I know. Exactly. It's like, he's the best player, he's doing everything, and it's somehow not good enough. Like, he can't literally do everything himself. He can try it, but other people have to, do something.
Because, for Cristiano Ronaldo, at least, they made the finals in 2004 and lost to Greece, which was hosted by Portugal. But that was the first good team he was in, which had Luis Figo, Rui Costa, all these legendary players, and he was the young gun. But he never had another good team until the Euros in 2016, real team of ballers. And then he suddenly had people like João Cancelo, Bruno Fernandes, João Felix, and suddenly they win the Euros.
Strange how that works.
Yeah, and then win the Nations Cup. Obviously, they couldn't repeat the same thing in the Euros this year.
No.
Because it was just Spain's destiny to win this tournament. But moving on from the big 2 continents, we go to Oceania, the FIFA's smallest confederation.
Yeah.
Smallest by value. I think it actually has more members than CONMEBOL. I think CONMEBOL has 11, and I think the OFC has 12 teams. So we've got our tournament started a bit later than the Euros and the Copa did. Just like we both expected, both host countries made it out of the group stage, and Tahiti, which I think we were all kind of thinking it would be either Tahiti or Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
make it out. Fiji were undefeated in their group, moving through with 9 points, and New Zealand obviously also undefeated. New Caledonia had to withdraw because of issues in the country.
Yeah.
And both them and the second host Vanuatu went through, and the semifinals kind of went as we expected. I think New Zealand beat Tahiti 5-0. Vanuatu and Fiji, the battle of the hosts, with in front of their home crowd. Vanuatu got through in a 2-1, and I think they put up a very good fight against New Zealand, but it's tough when you're not the only, when your opponents are professional players and you guys are not.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was, in the end, ended up being one-way traffic. I think you say right.
I think
it was
the
quite a
flattered New Zealand, right?
Yeah.
Because it was only a goal for a long time, and Vanuatu didn't look overwhelmed. It wasn't like New Zealand were getting heaps of chances and not scoring.
But yeah, there was an opening goal in the second minute. Allison, but yeah, like Vanuatu then played wonderfully all the way through to the second goal was the 83rd minute. So yeah. And then a bit of a lucky goal at the end. Well, a true last minute extra time, injury time icing on the cake for a team that's 2-1 up in a must-win sort of match where a team's attacking all out because they have to. And you're always going to get goals in that. There's going to be goals in that situation one way or the other. Either the team attacking manages the brilliant comeback, or the other team extends the lead out.
Exactly.
I think, as you said, it was the scoreline definitely flattered New Zealand a little bit.
Yes.
But once again, it's sort of the scoreline you'd expect, say, from a professional outfit versus
a semi-pro.
Yeah, semi-pro at best.
Yeah. And I think this is Vanuatu's first silver medal and first appearance in the finals,
which
of
is actually
the OFC.
A little bit amazing in of itself over the last few years, because Vanuatu is not actually a bad team. Yeah, at least from
but Fiji
Oceania
are really good.
Yeah.
Like in the Oceania level, like Fiji are really good. And I remember for a long time we had Australia.
Yeah. I mean, it's then I realised, but yeah, I would have thought because Vanuatu is reasonably good. I know Solomon Islands is reasonably good. Yeah, Fiji's obviously quite good. So, but yeah.
Ironically, Fiji have never got a silver. They've only got 2 bronzes and 3 fourth-place finishes. Oh. So, like, even though in our minds, I think we always think Fiji are strong because there's so many professional Fijian players in Oceania leagues, but as a team, not always performing to their best. Obviously, now it's set in stone. New Zealand were already the most successful team in the OFC Men's Nations Cup, but they're now 6, with Australia winning 4 and Tahiti winning the 1.
Yeah.
Tahiti also have 3 silvers, so obviously they are currently the second strongest, I think, team in Oceania in terms of history and pedigree.
Yeah, definitely.
So they're favorites for that 1/3 extra spot that the OFC will get for the next qualifiers. I think it's a bit like, sadly for other Oceanian countries, New Zealand pretty much is almost guaranteed to qualify for the World Cup with the new format.
Yeah, exactly.
With Oceania getting 1 1/3 spots.
Yeah, exactly. That sort of, unless because something goes horrendously wrong, I think have to assume New Zealand's taken that slot, but say it's the 3rd slot for someone else, you never know. Bit of luck, and it could go your way. It could go their way. So, which would be pretty awesome. Being Tahiti or Fiji or someone at a World Cup could be amazing.
Or New Caledonia.
Solomon Islands as well. No potential.
So, as a fun fact, apparently both Tahiti and the apparently only Tahiti, the Solomon Islands, New Caledonia, and Vanuatu have football as their most popular sport. Almost every other country in Oceania has something else as their most popular. It's either rugby league in PNG, or rugby union in New Zealand, as an example. Actually, I think Solomon Islands might also actually be rugby union. Sevens in Fiji and union in Tonga and Samoa. And apparently, Australian rules football is the national sport of Nauru. Not that they're a member of the OFC, but always found that quite interesting.
That is quite interesting, actually.
Apparently, Nauru is the only country in the world where Australian rules football is the national sport.
That is just funny.
Because obviously there is no... Australia's national sport is cricket. But yeah, that was our international season. I think I really enjoyed all the tournaments that were playing. Getting up to watch Spain play was like a real pleasure, and then literally just after the tournaments, just after the matches, we just listened to podcasts of people talking about how good Spain were. But moving on from the end of the next season to the beginning of the new season, we go back to our bread and butter. We're gonna talk football. We're gonna talk the Premier League. How excited are you as a Chelsea fan? Have Clear Lake Capital and the Bowley regime robbed you of pre-season excitement? Like, that's where all of us football fans in the world are allowed to be stupid. Imagine things like I'm sitting here going, 21, we're gonna get it. You know, like, even though probably not, but nobody knows. It's pre-season still.
Pre-season, anything could happen. Hasn't really gone particularly well our pre-season. So.
And also, I think Maresca is already having issues with the squad. And I think, like, it's really sad what Chelsea did to Conor Gallagher.
I know, it's really weird.
I feel like it's overall just been an incredibly I don't know, I feel bad. It looks from afar to be like a feels bad man when looking at Chelsea.
I know what you mean. It's just sort of trying to work out what's actually going on sometimes. It's a bit hard. I'm sure they'll come out of it, but just trying to work it all out at the moment just seems a bit far out of everything. So I mean, the Conor Gallagher thing, most people know he's gone, still hasn't actually been finalised or formalised or anything. Like that's just a bit weird. Sure, we'll get there eventually.
It has to be a done deal. Chelsea pretty much insulted him by offering him a 1-year extension on his contract.
No, he's in Madrid already. Like, he's apparently there and done it. It just hasn't been like it's actually done. It's just not.
It's just not officially done.
Those haven't. Chelsea, I guess, haven't, or someone hasn't signed off something somewhere.
Now, we'll get to Chelsea, we'll get to Manchester United. I'm sure we'll talk extensively about the clubs, but let's start off in alphabetical order when we're reviewing. These are the teams we're probably going to be in the top 7, 8 clubs. So we'll start with Arsenal. Looked incredibly good in the preseason, very smooth. Few interesting outgoings. Emile Smith-Rowe going to Fulham. That's a great buy for Fulham. Bunch of people going out on loan, like Albert Lokonga, Marquinhos. I think Marquinhos is basically going to end up going back to Brazil, to be fair. and a bunch of other people who are probably the ones going into the Championship or League One. They're probably not going to make it in the Arsenal first team. They're just being put on the shop window for a lower league club to come up. Their incomings, one of them, David Raya, they've completed the deal because technically he was on loan last season.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a bit of a no change because obviously he was incredibly important last season. And they got Riccardo Calafiori to cover the left-hand side from Bologna. And Bologna had an incredible season, getting top 4.
Yeah.
In the Serie A. It's a bit sad that all their squad is already being picked off by the Vultures.
Yeah, that's how that works, right?
To be fair, Vultures only go after corpses. Bologna were still alive, so maybe it's more fair to say they got picked off by lions or hyenas.
Lions, once again, hyenas are carcasses as well, right? So lions is probably the...
Lions and hyenas both do kill steals, but they tend to also hunt.
I guess. I just always think hyenas stealing off lions more than anything else.
Both do that to each other, but vultures literally can't eat live flesh. They have to wait for animals to die before they can eat them.
Fair enough.
But either way, Arsenal, just few incomings, keeping the chemistry. I don't know if they're going to be good enough to challenge as much as they have against Manchester City last 2 seasons. I mean, I don't expect Arsenal to be bad. I still think they'll be a top 4 team. But I don't, I think it's going to be easier for Manchester City this season. You can only go on with pushing every button, pushing at your hardest to keep winning like Manchester City have. And Arsenal haven't kept winning, they kept losing. So it's even harder to do that. You should know as a Buffalo Bills fan. We never know. The transfer window is still technically open, so Arsenal might still end up with a few extra players coming in, but they're still, I think, the best of the rest compared to Manchester City, but I don't think Manchester City, in the end, it's going to be a very comfortable win for them, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is very likely. No, we've said that the last few seasons.
And it's been correct.
And it has
for the
been
last
correct.
few seasons.
In the end, it's been correct, yeah. They've always pulled through to make it work.
More comfortable.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think Arsenal's second to me.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point. They will continue to do what they've done for the last few seasons, look good, but not quite have the depth or the breadth to bring it home.
Yeah. Next up, we have another top 4 team in Aston Villa, who finished 4th, playing in the Champions League this season. Obviously, they already have a really good squad and an incredibly good manager who is great at playing in the Europa League. This will be, and also in the Champions League. They've had a bunch of incomings. They got Cameron Archer from Sheffield United and Amadou Onana, the notable ones, Samuel Iling Jr. from Juventus and Enzo Baracenia from Juventus. So good players bringing in from Serie A.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other players like Ross Barkley coming in from Luton Town.
I know.
That's a very clever buy, I think. And Ian Maatsen from Chelsea.
Yeah.
Is he going to be the next superstar from the academy that left the club?
Yeah. Actually, it's a good point. Probably should have stuck him into my fantasy draft just to beat the Chelsea loan, the Chelsea Foreign Legion.
Yeah. Also, they have had most of their outgoings are players who, like Philippe Coutinho is gone out to Vasco da Gama in Brazil, and Douglas Luiz leaves for Juventus for 50 million. And there's a bunch of other loan spells and undisclosed. Musa Diaby going out to Al Ittihad. So there's a few. They've lost a few players, but they have bought in a lot of bodies.
Yeah.
Most of the other players mostly look like loan and free transfers. So players who are not really gonna make it to the Villa first team. It looks like. It's really tough for a club playing first time in the Champions League. Aston Villa haven't now fully established in the Premier League. I don't expect them to make the top 4 again. No, but I think they have a really, really good manager, and I think they'll finish in the European spot places somewhere. And I wouldn't be surprised if they go really far into a cup.
Yeah, exactly. I'd agree with all that.
By really far, I mean at least a semi, if not a final. Maybe winning the FA Cup or League Cup. The squad very capable,
definitely
very
capable,
dangerous.
Yeah.
And Unai Emery is like an awesome cup manager.
Yeah, good point.
So my prediction for Aston Villa. They're not going to drop as far down as Brighton did after making European football, I don't think. I think 6th is my prediction.
That seems like a fair spot for them, I think. Maybe 5th, but I think they're more likely. Sort of might depend on how Europe goes for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got at least 6 games in Europe. Those are going to be magic nights for their fans. 3 games, they'll host European giants. That'll be incredible.
Yeah.
And of course, Aston Villa have pedigree in this tournament, having won it in 1984. They'll argue that this is just one of their natural spots. They should always be here. Obviously. Moving on, let's go to the elephant in the room, Manchester City. The team, obviously, to beat, the team we all expect, unless something radically weird happens, like Pep Guardiola becoming England manager. Then I would not think that that's impossible.
No.
Because
it's not.
Pep has mentioned he wants to get the ultimate prize, win the World Cup. But given his politics, he doesn't really want to lead Spain.
Yeah.
Being a staunch Catalan nationalist that he is.
Yeah.
He doesn't want, so I imagine he's going to he would either go to Italy or England. Those are the most likely, I think. Maybe something like the Brazil job if Ancelotti doesn't end up taking it. This is his last season in theory because he's not signed a new contract, but he is relaxed about it. He's probably happy to take his time, and he might not even sign the contract till the end of the season is over, and he's had a few weeks to think about what he wants to do. He's achieved everything there is to achieve in the club game,
Yeah, exactly.
He's done a treble with 2 separate clubs. It's like no other manager is gonna be able to boast that.
No, exactly. I think you're right. He's done everything in the club game to be like, I am the best club manager. So
yeah,
there is a little bit for him like, what's next? Where does he go from here?
Exactly. That said, Manchester City have not had that many players come in. They've had Savio come in from Troyes and Claudio Echeverri coming in from River Plate. And there's a bunch of interesting outgoings. Micah Hamilton to Middlesbrough and Julian Alvarez to Atletico Madrid.
Yeah.
Both for undisclosed fees. Rory Delap going to Ipswich. It's going to be interesting. Liam Delap, Rory's son. Going to Ipswich is interesting. Calvin Phillips going on loan to West Ham. Now that could be a very interesting buy. Claudio Echeverri is not even coming in because he got bought, but he's also being loaned straight back to River Plate, which kind of makes sense. That's probably like a good outcome for both clubs in this situation. And the squad at City, we always hear things like it's a bit unsettled, but Pep seems to just always get the best out of them. You know, all these players always threaten to be like, I don't want to stay here, I want to leave. And City's like, do you?
Do you really?
We pay you money and you win trophies. And they're like, oh yeah, I do get money and trophies if I hear.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
I'll stay.
Also, because we don't play that many games because you get rotated so well, I'm actually fit when it comes to playing like internationals.
Exactly, I'm not injured all the time. And I get a fair amount of game time. Wow, this seems like a good deal.
And let's be honest, while Manchester City have Rodri in the team, they're the best team in the Premiership.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's this running gag you and I talk about that somebody has to literally be N'Golo Kante to be like a defensive player and win the Player of the Year award or Writers Player of the Year award, and it's true. But Rodri is very close to being that N'Golo Kante figure.
Exactly. It's not that far off really of being N'Golo Kante or Rodri. Like, just gonna add it in there because he's just playing on fire at the moment, basically.
Yeah. I think obviously City gonna come first, no question.
Yeah, I don't see a reason to doubt it.
Now, the final team of the top 4 of last season were Liverpool. Very difficult team to judge because obviously it's a new manager. And it's a new league for this manager as well. He's not experienced in the Premier League. And obviously Klopp is going to be a huge figure to replace. It's very difficult to judge for me because on the one hand, someone like Erik ten Hag came into United and they got into the top 4 right away. I think they finished 3rd that season, like kind of luckily.
Yeah.
And then obviously last season they won the we won the FA Cup. Whereas like Arne Slot, he's coming in, but it's not like Ten Hag was replacing a legendary manager.
Yeah.
He had Ralph Rangnick, and before Ralph had replaced Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So this isn't big shadow or big shoes to fill. And whereas Arne Slot's kind of doing what David Moyes had to do and replace a legendary manager for Liverpool with the greatest manager in their Premier League era, right?
Yeah.
And it's a tough ask. That being said, I think the owners at Liverpool are very, very patient. But I do think it's going to be a more competitive top 4 this season. I don't think Aston Villa are going to finish in the top 4 again, and I would be quite surprised if Liverpool finished in the top 4. Like, just as a comparison, Manchester City in 2017 had a better squad than Liverpool does now, and they had Pep Guardiola come in, and in his first season he finished 4th.
Yeah.
I remember people were calling him the bald fraud.
Yes.
And I was literally like, guys, he's gonna pwn it next season. Absolutely pwn it. And he did.
Strangely enough, yeah.
And they haven't had too many incoming players as well so far in their transfer. Lots of people going out on loan. But they had bought very well in the last season. So we'll see how they support Slot and how they adapt to the style of play. I still think Liverpool are a very good team. I think they're going to be unlucky and just miss out on the top 4. They'll finish 5th, but that might actually be good enough to finish in the Champions League spot, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in that. Let's say they haven't really, so far, bolstered their squad a lot. There's no players in, there's a few players out.
Yeah.
But yeah, sort of feels like only so far they can get to, right? Eventually, this running light catches up. Whilst they've had very good season recently, or last season. It feels like that might have been it might be just 22-23 they finished sixth after finishing second, and so it feels similar-ish where they had a good run last year and now it's the kickback, right, to fall out of it.
Yeah, and like they were one of the greatest Premier League teams we've seen come second twice in a row before they won their Premier in the COVID season, the first COVID season, I should say. And I'm not, as a Manchester United fan, I'm not putting an asterisk on that. Liverpool were gonna win that season, whether COVID came or not.
Yeah.
I think that was the year where I truly learned that to be careful of what I wish for, because I wished that Liverpool would not win the Premier League, and then COVID happened and they cancelled the season. I was like, what the hell have I done?
Yeah.
And I was just like, because I consistently tell my wife off whenever she makes an idle wish, because I'm like, look, this is exactly how it'll come back, and like, you know, like I'll find the loophole in her wording. This is exactly how it'll come back to bite you. And she's like, why do you think this way? And I'm like, because the universe hates people who make wishes without thinking about it. And then I did the same thing.
Yeah.
And you know, it would have been my fault. But, you know, at the end of the day, I asked for forgiveness. I'll never do it again, and Liverpool won. And we still got 2 more years of COVID. My bad, guys.
Disappointed. Number 9.
I know. But I think 5th place for Liverpool, we were saying, and Aston Villa 6th. We happy with that as a prediction?
Yeah. I think the only place we're going to disagree is perhaps this 4th place that we've left open.
4th place that we've left open. Okay, so let's go into your club, Chelsea.
Yeah.
How would you describe their like? I thought Mauricio Pochettino did a really good job by the end of the season. He got them playing a really nice style of football. They looked great. They came above Manchester United in the end.
Yeah.
In the league finish, and I was just like, wow, this Chelsea team are going to be challenging for top 4 next season. And I was like, of course they're going to fire Pochettino.
Yeah, just for the fun of it.
But I think Pochettino showed a lot of principle. He didn't want players like obviously Calvin Phillips and homegrown youth team players to get sold just to balance the books. I think he agreed with their philosophy of buying in young players for lots of money and selling in homegrown products for lots of money to balance the books. Like, you know, you could tell that just feels like an idea that's not going to work.
Exactly.
And he basically went, nah, I'm going out, mutual thing. And I think Bowley and Clear Lake realized he's not the kind of manager they wanted either.
Yeah.
Now, they got in Maresca because he had a great season with Leicester. Almost at one point looked like they were going to break the record in the championship.
Yeah.
And come storming back. And he's obviously worked under Pep. Like, he will argue that he's his own man. He's got his own style, and I think that's true. But also, I think it's a really risky strategy. Leicester, by far, had the best squad in the championship.
Yeah.
So it's really easy. Like, this is the equivalent of they had a Bayern Munich-like squad compared to the rest of the championship.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of, like, how much they could spend, what was available to them. And I think Leicester are a club that are generally careful about how they spend their money and are, you know, usually a really well-run club. It's a bit like I think a lot of clubs, you can criticize them because they get too greedy, and Leicester were in a position where during the COVID times when they were allowed to break FFP to be like, do we continue our current model, everybody else is spending money, or do we try and spend money now while we've got this window to try and, you know, buy ourselves out of our out of a bad situation, and either solution might have not worked.
Yeah.
They had to pick something, and they did. Like, they didn't dilly-dally over it. They decided on a strategy. They went all in. Didn't work, and I think, that's okay, because it's not like they can predict the future. They couldn't look back then, and with what you knew back then, they couldn't tell what was the right strategy to do. They had to gamble on it.
I think we talked a bit about it last year, and we're like, look, they gambled, but it didn't pay off. But at least they didn't go down wondering, right? They tried something, and they tried the aggressive, we're gonna really push this and really try what we're gonna do, as opposed to try and wait it out and cross our fingers. They were doing something that could pay off.
Being proactive.
Proactive, yes.
Yeah.
That's
They were being proactive, and it's not like necessarily staying passive and keeping to their old strategy would have saved them as
exactly.
well.
It could have, it could have been worse even. Who knows?
Yes. Now, with all that being said, they have got in another big, huge group of players, and they might still be buying more.
Yeah. Got rid of
Still
a big
not
group
done.
of players too, so.
And they have a big group of players. They've got Pedro Neto coming in, Aaron and Salimo coming in from Boca Juniors, and Kiernan Dewsbury Hall from Leicester, Maresca bringing him in, and just a zillion other players.
Yeah.
So many players are coming into Chelsea. I don't know it's very difficult to judge, I think, for Maresca. It's a very risky signing, just because I think, as I said, look at what happened with Vincent Kompany last season with Burnley. I know he's now the Bayern Munich boss, but Burnley by far had the best squad and the most amount of money to spend, and they came straight back up, just as you would expect. And Leicester did the same thing. None of them have done something it's incredible that they played so well and they were so dominant. So take nothing away from that, but also, they had the highest wage bill. They finished first. That tends to be how it is.
Yeah. Strange how the club spending the most on the highest paid players somehow won that. Who would have thought?
Yeah. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think
basically,
Mascara is a bit of a. I think that's Foley and Co being blinded by just Mascara doing so well, and Leicester looking so good. It's you say there was good reasons for that. They had a good squad. They didn't really lose that much. They were still paying their players lots, and
they Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, they had Jamie Vardy
I
still
don't care.
going
They
with
still had Jamie Vardy.
And they'd had a poor this season they went down was just a poor season, right? Leicester are.
There were some very strange tactical and strategic decisions made by Brendan Rodgers in that season, which cost them, especially from a set pieces.
Yeah.
So that was a blind spot. Their strategy and deciding to gamble, I'm not criticizing that, but this is worthy of criticism. That was a blind spot, and their sporting directors and Brendan Rodgers didn't deal with it properly.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think Leicester were also really badly affected by the pandemic. Their owners are reliant on the tourism industry.
Yeah.
And so, maybe they were other things on their mind, which is understandable.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think Chelsea, it's tough. I think other teams are better run in the league, and outside of the top two that we've mentioned, I don't necessarily even think they're going to be better than Aston Villa. And Chelsea don't have, the only upside is they don't have European football next season.
Yeah. Oh no, we still got European football. We've got Conference League, don't we?
You've got the Conference League. So Chelsea's got the Conference League, so they still have European football. That might be the trophy you guys win to qualify for Europe, because you might not finish in the top 7.
I'm going to be more optimistic, and I was just going to be very one-eyed and just slot us into that 4th spot, just because. I don't know if we're going to do anything to deserve it. I think this is just me slotting my team in as high as I can feel.
So do you think Chelsea will finish higher than Aston Villa?
In the end, yes. We're still going to have some decent players in there. Like, hopefully they can all pull it together.
Do you think they'll finish higher than Liverpool?
In this case, yes. Let's go with that. I mean, yeah, you're starting to make me
So
doubt
you're
where I was.
expecting Chelsea to make top 4?
Yeah, I'll say.
Because we both accepted that Liverpool will be 5th.
Yeah, I'll say I was slotting them into the 4th spot that I'd left open.
Fair enough.
I'm not defending this in any way. This is purely, I'm going to stick my club into the 4th spot because.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, fair enough. Glass houses and stones and all that.
Yeah.
Coming for me. Okay, so you're picking Chelsea to come 4th. So moving on to Chelsea, we may as well go to Manchester United. Finishing in their lowest ever Premier League finish last season at 8th place. And looking awful, like absolutely awful. All season. Obviously, they made up for it by winning the FA Cup against City. Incredible game. So glad I stayed up for that.
Yeah.
And watched that game. And then the squad is a very interesting position. Like they have re-signed and extended Erik ten Hag for an extra year, so he's got 2 years left. So he's not like the supply teacher situation, but he's also, it's only just another year, so he's gonna potentially have to re-show his worth, but they have supported him. They've got Lenny Yoro from Lille for supposedly $40 million, but he's a really young player. He can cover the left flank, and he can cover the right flank, right fullback and centre back. So that's the sort of player we need. And he's a tall boy, as I say, and even though it is not written here yet, Manchester United, Raphael Honigstein from The Athletic has reported that they have come to an agreement with Bayern Munich to get Matthias de Ligt from them. So 2 tall boys to go along with Martinez in that centre-back position. So now basically we go, our 4th choice is Harry Maguire, which is a much better position to be in than 4th choice centre-back is Victor Lindelof. Is a bit more, has a little bit more issues. You've got Wan-Bissaka, and obviously I think Diego Dalot was low-key the best player at Manchester United last season, playing on the left wing, and you've got obviously Luke Shaw. So the defense looks pretty good now. And they got Joshua Zirkzee, who's already from Bologna as well. He basically told them that he's a 9.5 type player, similar to someone like a Roberto Firmino. He plays as the false 9. He doesn't score many goals, but he does generate goal chances. It's going to be a bit difficult to see how that works out, because obviously Rasmus Højlund, who I think genuinely has skills to pay the bills. Yeah. When he was fit, was scoring at a pretty regular rate. If he does come in, when he comes in September, him and Joshua Zirkzee hopefully will be able to play off each other really well. But in the meantime, we still have Marcus Rashford. There's a feeling that they're going to get another midfielder, like Ugati from PSG, though he's kind of valued at pretty higher price. So we don't know, but unlike previous years, it looks like the new group of people like Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos are able to do two things at the same time, like actually pursue two different targets in case one doesn't pan out. Who knew?
Who knew? Wow, who could have thought of that? Amazing.
Casemiro looked pretty good in that in the Charity Shield game. He's kind of come. He might, if he can play a decent number of starts, 20 to 25 starts in the Premier League, and come back to at least 90% of his level, that's going to surely be pretty good for him.
Yeah.
For the team, there's a few people going out. Rafael Varane, who unfortunately had like a very injury-prone time at United. There's Mason Greenwood moving to Olympique Marseille. There's already riots going on in France before he left, and Marseille started having more riots as fans and the mayor have criticized the club for buying a player like him, which I can't blame.
No. Obviously, Olympique Marseille is obviously not quite far enough for Mason Greenwood. He might have to try a bit further.
Like, he was at Getafe, and it's one thing at Getafe where the fans just understand that the ownership group and the people managing the club just don't care. They have no morals, no ethics. Like, the president openly says he wants to become the president of Real Madrid. Like, that's the sort of club Getafe are.
Yeah.
They moved to Olympique Marseille, a club that's won the Champions League, has all this pedigree, the most successful team in France in terms of like trophies won in their career, and you're like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah. It is a bit weird.
That's gonna be, it's gonna be an interesting League One season coming up. But all that being said, Manchester United looked okay in pre-season here and there. This team probably fits a lot of what Erik Ten Hag wants to try and do. In terms of, he wants to be the best transition team. He barely qualified that because he told that to Carl Anka at the beginning of the season last season. And Carl wrote a bunch of articles about this because he had further conversations with Erik Ten Hag about tactics and strategy that he sees Manchester United doing and what he thinks fits for him.
Yeah.
And he's like, now when I talk to and he went to talk to Erik Ten Hag in a press conference at the beginning of in the preseason, he was like, oh no, I only meant that in attack. So Carl's like, what? That is not what you said. And also, a bunch of times you're talking about stuff like rest defense and things like this. So clearly you did not,
Yeah.
So it's really funny. And, it's a great podcast on The Athletic when you, because they're basically doing a bit of a season review for every team who's talked about Manchester United. And literally every other person in that podcast is cracking up laughing. It's really great. But The Athletic are great, so shout out to them.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely worth listening to their football podcasts. And the Manchester United, I'm also going to be relatively optimistic. And as I said, glass houses and stones. I think United will finish above Liverpool. So, yeah, fourth.
Yeah, I mean,
let's be even more. Let's be even more stupid. I'm gonna put in third.
Third, wow. Means you're moving. Who did we have in third?
Well, we had City and Arsenal. We haven't picked a third place team yet.
Oh, we haven't picked a third place. Oh, I could have picked the third. Oh, I could have picked Chelsea as third.
You didn't.
Disappointed. I somehow in my head I thought we'd picked a third, but we hadn't. You're right. All right, I guess United gets to go third. No, I'm changing it. Chelsea third, United fourth. Okay, do you all? I can change things.
There you go. Fair enough. I still think Chelsea will finish outside the top 7. Now, I think the team are going to finish fourth. We go to next, Tottenham Hotspur. Team that should have finished fourth last season. The manager has rejuvenated the club, rejuvenated the squad, and I think he's gonna have another season to implement his style and implement his system, and also hopefully learn a few things. Like, you know, he doesn't have the luxury that he had in the Scottish Premier League, where, you know, Celtic have so much more money and so much better players than the rest of the league. But he's kind of shown that, you know, he finished 5th. He's clearly no mug. He's got some skills. Tottenham Hotspur have made some really, really interesting buys. They got Archie Gray from Leeds. They got Dominic Solanke from Bournemouth, which is going to be an incredible. And they've also reloaned Timo Werner from Red Bull Leipzig. So they're ready to go again. I personally would have liked to see a few more people in their defense. Outgoings include Ryan Sessegnon back to Fulham, and Eric Dyer moves to Bayern Munich on a free. And so there's a bunch of changes in their squad. I expect Spurs will still get a few more players as the season progresses. I think they're going to be really, really strong this season. And Spurs playing in the Europa League, they just don't tend to take Europa League very seriously.
Yeah.
If they're not in the Champions League, so they're going to try and aim for the top 4, for a top 4/top 5 finish, and I expect them to finish 4th.
I'm going to slot them in at 7th because I've foolishly slots above them. But they're Spurs, so I trust them to Spurs things up and finish 7th for some reason. Despite the fact they probably really should.
You could always move Aston Villa 7th. You could.
I could. But that would be giving Spurs a lot of credit.
Yeah, fair enough. And finally, the other team that finished in the European spots, the leftover, Newcastle United. Once again, I think this is a club that, they're actually quite well run. They seem to get in good players all the time, and I do rate their manager. He plays an interesting style of football, but also isn't leave the back unguarded. They got Lewis Hall from Chelsea, who I think is going to be a baller. And William Asula from Sheffield United, Odias Valkimos from Nottingham Forest. So a bunch of players with Premier League experience. I think the squad already was really, really good. And they might still bring in a few other players. Newcastle have no Europe. Sorry, do they? Because they've got the Europa League spots, and they finished just above Manchester United. So they got They're in the Europa League with Spurs and Manchester United, who won the FA Cup, and Chelsea obviously are in the Conference League. It's gonna be a really, really interesting season for them. Newcastle, while they don't tend to take European nights for granted, like the way Spurs does at the Europa League, I expect that they're going to probably put in a really, really good effort. I think they might go really far in the Europa League. I would not be surprised if they won it. But I think their long Euro run will leave them a bit spent in the league, so they'll finish 7th.
Yeah, I'm with you there a little bit. I don't think they're going to be quite as good in the league. Well, they'll be the bottom of these teams. So I think I've left 8th for them. 8th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they can slot in there. That seems. I'm not too worried about that. I mean, I feel like the top 8 are going to be pretty. Well, I feel like fourth through to probably even 3rd through to 8th is not actually going to be much. I think last year the top 3 sort of extended out. I think this year, maybe top 2 are well ahead, but the rest
top
are
1.
Yeah.
I think 1's going to be a bit ahead of 2. 2's going to be a whiles ahead of 3rd, and it'll be very close to 3rd to 8th. I think you're right.
That's my feeling as well. I feel like Arsenal's probably just a better quality that they should keep ahead up in the second. City will City it, as they've done for the last few years. But yeah, the rest of them, so Liverpool through the Newcastle, like it could be any of them really. Like
obviously,
like they'll be very
all bets are off. It's all bets are off if someone like Pep Guardiola or Eddie Howe becomes England manager. That is a big. But I think it might end up being Jurgen Klopp.
That would probably make the most sense for England. So
that's my secret bet for that. Now we've kind of gone through our top 7 or 8. How do you see the relegation places play out this season?
Cool.
Alright, let's look at each every promoted club first, because they're the likely candidates.
Yeah.
Leicester, Ipswich, Southampton. I feel like Leicester's not going to be relegated.
You would think they should stay up. I mean, they didn't really feel like they'd lost a lot.
And they've got Vardy.
They've still got Vardy.
And I rate Steve Cooper.
Yeah. They've got some halfway decent incomings to help. They might need I mean, this squad be fairly solid as it is. Whether they need a couple of others in to help with it.
Yeah.
But you say they've still got people from seasons back. So not like it's going to be too horrendous for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting them to finish top 10 or above sort of thing, and I don't necessarily think they're not going to be in trouble at some point in the season, but I think it's going to be similar to Bournemouth. That season, everybody expected them to get relegated.
Yeah.
And they stayed. Could it be all 3 stay up like they did that season? Because Bournemouth ended up staying up, and so did Nottingham Forest. And so did Fulham.
Definitely possible. I feel... I mean, Ipswich is pretty good, but it does feel the sort of Norwich sort of vibes to me, where it's like too good for the championship, maybe not really.
Ipswich are not. Yeah? Is Ipswich really too good for the championship? They were in League One for 10 seasons before Paul McKenna took them up to the championship. Like, it's back-to-back promotions, so that is a very, very impressive achievement. Ipswich obviously are a club with pedigree. They've won the English Championship twice. They've won the Europa League. They've won the UEFA Cup with Bobby Robson. So they're a team that have history. That all being said, Paul McKenna is going to be playing with the big boys. I do think he's a good manager, but I think this could be similar to when Burnley first went up in 2012, and then they got with Sean Dyche, and then they got relegated, and Sean Dyche brought them back up, and then they stayed. Ipswich might need a season, and they might even if they get relegated, I think, with the whole parachute payments, and those are projected to get more generous.
Right, yeah.
And there might even make rules about them being allowed to spend as much as they were allowed to spend in the Premier League when they get relegated, which I think is a really dumb idea. It feels like every mediocre club in the Premiership is trying to, not being content with ruining the Premiership, they're trying to ruin the Championship too. I'm going to do a rant, okay? Every club that hasn't finished in the top 6 in the last 10 years of Manchester City dominance, Manchester City are not to blame for England becoming a show jumping race, it's not even having a thing race with one club winning. When you look at the leagues where you've got these dominant things, Celtic, way more money than any other club in the SPL. Bayern Munich, way more money than any other club in the Bundesliga. Barcelona and Real, both of them, way more money than anybody else in La Liga, and obviously PSG in League One. Manchester City have never had the highest wage bill in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So them being this dominant is everybody else's fault. Everybody, that whole thing about it's not fair. We should have a business economic plan in case we get relegated. Why isn't your economic plan not to suck? That should be your plan.
That should be plan A. Don't suck.
Don't suck. That would be a great plan.
Yeah, exactly. I think that definitely should be taken on. You're the master strategist for some Premier League club. They need to start listening. Plan A, don't suck.
I just thought, because every time I see all these suggestions they make about Premier League clubs, it always comes from these mid-table clubs who were worried they might get relegated. To try and help the pyramid. Is like, this is not helping the pyramid, this is helping you.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's making the pyramid worse. You will suck.
Like, actually making things worse just to maybe make it better for you. Although, if you're sucking that bad, I don't know if it's going to help that much. You're just like trying to make your suckiness more sucky for everybody else than it is for you.
Exactly. And look, the club that finishes last in the Premier League earns $84 million. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
The club that finishes top of the championship gets $8 million. How about you use that advantage?
Yeah,
and stop taking parachute payments.
Yeah, that's a big difference, right? That's huge.
You will know if you're going to be a team that's likely to be relegated. Make a plan for it. Have an insurance policy. Set it up. Don't ruin the championship.
Yeah, exactly.
The championship is awesome. It's a great league. And that is my rant.
I enjoyed your TED Talk.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But yeah, I think of the three teams that got promoted, I think Leicester I feel like they're not going to get relegated. I feel like Southampton might also flick through.
Yeah, and Southampton I'm 50-50 on to say, like,
Southampton always have a bunch of really good youth players.
Yeah,
and
that's what's making me think they might stay up. It might just depend a little bit on the intake and everything, how that's all sitting. But yeah, I feel like they'll be close.
And they have bought a bunch of really interesting players like Ben Breton Diaz from Villarreal, and Flynn Downs from West Ham United, and Nathan Wood from Swansea. So they've bought players very interestingly, I think, and they've not lost too many players. I think, and they always have a good youth academy, because Southampton, people don't know that one of the things is every club is given like a, I think, 50-mile window of where their stadium is, where they're allowed to recruit players from if they're under the age of 18. For their youth academies and things like that. And Southampton quite reasonably went to the FA, look, half our area is the ocean, which is a bit unfair. So they got given like an additional area which doesn't infringe on other clubs that were around their level, which is around Bath, which is in the West Country of England. There's no other Premier League clubs there, so every time there's like a decent looking player in Bristol or Bristol City and all those clubs around there, they just go in and go, yeah, do you want to come to Southampton? We're a Premier League club, and they're allowed to recruit from there. So that's one of their big advantages, and they've used it really well. Very and by the way, I don't think it's unfair they have that. Like, they put in a very reasonable argument that their thing is, half ocean.
Yeah, that's very reasonable. Like,
but the fact that they were given this and as an addition, to make up, means that they've got a wider variety of areas to pick from.
Yeah.
But they've also used that advantage really well and cleverly.
Yeah.
So I think that's a credit to them. I think the season they got relegated was always a bit weird. We had two, I think, clubs we thought were Premier League level, and they immediately got relegated. So I think Southampton, they'll stay up, but only just. I expect them to be in the relegation battle. and they will fight. I think Ipswich will go down, but I think they'll be like Luton Town, fighting the good fight, doing really, really well, and they might even be not yet relegated till the last day and end up, last day heartbreak.
Yeah.
If I'm expecting 2 of the promoted clubs to stay up, I have to pick 2 other clubs to go down. Look, boys and girls, I know you're all saying it, but repeat after me. Don't do this. Don't pick Everton to go down. It just never happens.
No.
It's impossible. They are inevitably going to stay in the Premier League, and they're definitely not being relegated while Sean Dyche is their manager.
Yeah, I agree.
I think, looking at the table, Nottingham Forest look very, very vulnerable.
Still got Chris Wood.
And they do have Chris Wood, but I feel like they're going to do something dumb like sell him or loan him to Southampton.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
If they have Chris Wood, they won't be relegated, but I'm just saying they are vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think it's just Wolves have sold too many of their good players. Right?
Yeah.
Surely.
Wolves, I feel Wolves' time has run out.
I don't like saying it. I have no particular antipathy to Wolves, and they've had great teams, which I've liked watching. I like their fans. But yeah, I think Wolves look very vulnerable. They're up there with Ipswich for me as a team I would pick.
Yeah.
And depending, I think if Brentford sell Ivan Toney, which looks like that's what they're going to do, and they're not going to have enough time to get in recruitments.
Oh, that could be trouble, yeah.
These look very, very vulnerable to me as well.
Yeah.
I think Brighton, Crystal Palace, Fulham, they're just going to be safe. Bournemouth, they're going to be safe.
Yeah.
I think the Bees, and I think because West Ham don't have David Moyes anymore, they could be vulnerable. They'll be in the relegation scrap as well.
I think West Ham should probably...
I don't think they'll be relegated.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be relegated. I think they'll be part of the scrap.
I think West Ham should probably have enough quality even without manager to...
West Ham always pick an attacking manager that fits the West Ham way. That leads them to almost getting relegated until they bring in like a pragmatic guy who keeps them up.
You make a good point for
I
that.
look forward to Sam Allardyce keeping West Ham up at the end of the year.
Yeah. No, that... You make a good point. No, I think Ipswich is going. I think Wolves' time has run out. I think Leicester stays up. I think the third spot is between Southampton, Nottingham, and probably Brentford as well. Maybe Bournemouth, like one of those two. Which of those has the bad? If Brentford does sell Tony, I feel like that might too much.
Yeah. Bournemouth, look, I've been burned. We all underestimated Bournemouth. They finished 14th the season we all predicted they'd be relegated.
Yeah. I don't really want to predict them being relegated, but the time's gone. But probably more likely.
Since they've been promoted, they've not been part of a relegation scrap.
Yeah. I think more likely it's going to be between Forest and Southampton, the third one, with a bit more outside possibilities of Brentford and Bournemouth.
Yeah, I think Brentford, Bournemouth, West Ham are not going to necessarily be relegated, but they'll be in that scrap. But I think Forest, Wolves, Southampton, and Ipswich obviously these are the clubs that you're just going, things look a bit tense.
I mean, Forest only really just survived last season.
They did get a points deduction and survive, so that is impressive.
You could make a point. There was a points deduction in that. But, counterpoint. Sheffield United, Burnley. When you've got teams that badly, you're only still, even with points deductions, still just scraping on in. The points deductions for them and Everton do mean that the safety zone ended up being lower because, there's less points. there's 20 less points in the competition.
The gap in the Premier League is widening between top and bottom teams. I think back in the day we said 40 points guaranteed survival generally. Like occasionally, West Ham got 47 points once and got relegated, which was like the first time they got relegated out of the Premier League, which was like a very tough pill for them to swallow. Because I watched a lot of West Ham games that season. They didn't look bad. Even in the games they lost, it wasn't like they were this team that was getting pushed aside and completely destroyed.
Yeah.
That being said, I think might only need 30 points to survive the league this season. Maybe 30 is a bit low. 34 points might be enough to guarantee survival.
Wow, yeah.
I think Wolves look really, really bad. Could look really, really bad. I think Ipswich might be the team with 30-something points, and then you might have a Nottingham Forest or a Southampton or a Brentford somewhere down there with 27, 28 points.
Yeah. I feel like Ipswich is going to be the second lowest. Between Wolves and Ipswich, bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Southampton, Forest. Maybe, Brentford or Bournemouth. I know. Scraping around that third spot, say mid-30s. Mid to low 30s. See how it goes.
Yeah.
Who knows, really?
It's very difficult to predict. But it's going to be a very competitive relegation battle, I feel like. Which is part of the reason I think a lot of chairmen and analysts from these clubs agree with me, hence why they're trying to ruin the championship preemptively.
Yeah.
I think that's all we have time for today.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening, and we'll look forward to hearing from you next time.
Catch you next time.
Well, that is the end. Thanks for listening all the way through.
If you liked what you heard, see even more. NineSixFourTwo Discord and a Buy Me a Coffee.
Pretty sure it's Buy Me a Beer.
Oh yeah, buy me a beer on buymeacoffee.com.
In both these places, you can talk to us, and we may even listen, especially if you do buy a said beer or coffee. I might still be confused.
Yes, we're easily bribed. All links are in the show notes below.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
This is on YouTube.